I've got with me today James Bayliss. How you doing, James?
Yeah, good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. And of course, we've decided to go live. And we did one of these lives yesterday when we were talking about Mesut Ozil and the fact that Mesut Ozil has been left out of the Arsenal Premier League squad. I mean, we already knew that he was out of the squad for the Europa League, which of course we're going to be beginning tomorrow. And I saw pictures of the players flying out today. But he's also been left out of the Premier League squad. Now, there has been a reaction to that today from Mesut Ozil, and it's got fans talking. It's got the media talking. I immediately had Sky calling me up saying, Robbie, we want you to come on live and talk about it. I've got to go on BBC and talk about it. I mean, everybody's talking about it. It's a huge news. The reaction that came from Mesut Ozil to the fact that basically you're out, you're gone from the team. Now, James, I know you've got the actual statement that he released on his Instagram earlier on today, and you're going to read it out to us, and then we're going to get a reaction. You know, we'll talk about it, but then I really, really want to hear from as many fans as possible. What do you guys think about it? How has he been treated, etc.? But James, you've got the statement.
Yeah.
Let's hear what that statement was.
I'll be reading this in the last home shirt he ever played in for the club. I pulled this out on purpose for it. But here we go. Here's what he's had to say. He said, this is a difficult message to write to the Arsenal fans that I've played for over the past few years. I'm really deeply disappointed by the fact that I have not been registered for the Premier League season for the time being. Upon signing my new contract in 2018, I pledged my loyalty and allegiance to the club that I love, Arsenal, and it saddens me that this has not been reciprocated. As I've just found out, loyalty is hard to come by nowadays. I've always tried to remain positive from week to week that there's maybe a chance to get back in the squad soon again. That's why I kept silent so far. Before the coronavirus break, I was really happy with the development under our new coach, Mikel Arteta. We've been on a positive way, and I would say my performances were on a really good level. But then things changed. Again, I was not longer allowed to play for Arsenal, to play football for Arsenal. What else can I say? London still feels like home. I still have many good friends in this team, and I still feel a strong connection with the fans of this club. No matter what, I will keep fighting for my chance and not let my 8th season at Arsenal end like this. I can promise you that this hard decision won't change anything in my mindset. I will continue to train as best as I can and wherever possible use my voice against inhumanity and for justice. Mesut.
There's a statement. The big takeaway from that statement was, I thought, where he said that loyalty. What he said about loyalty there, meaning, you know, nothing.
Yeah.
And there's obviously something that's gone on behind the scenes here. Obviously something has gone on behind the scenes, and it's resulted in, you know, now he's come to the realization that he's never going to play for Arsenal again. Although he did say a couple of times in that statement, James, that for now, didn't he?
Yeah, there was. And I wonder whether he's referring to the fact that maybe you can re-register in January. I'm not 100% sure on that, but, you know, he's clearly making the point that he's going to keep fighting for his place and he's going to keep working hard. But as you said, this doesn't sound like it's for footballing reasons at all. In fact, I would go as far as to say that his statement borderline confirms that this is not a footballing thing. And that's quite hard. There are a few things I picked out. The loyalty one, I think, that you mentioned, absolutely. Just having a little look here, I thought this last line, I will continue to train as best as I can wherever possible, use my voice against inhumanity and for justice. I thought the fact that he mentioned that suggests that maybe there was some sort of conflict in maybe the way he spoke out on certain things.
Well, yeah, there was the whole China thing, wasn't there? He spoke out about the plight of the Uyghur Muslims in China. He came out very strongly about that.
He did.
And obviously, if you remember at the time when he came out and spoke about that, the football club, you know, immediately came out and said, listen, this is nothing to do with us.
Yeah.
We're not supporting what he's saying. And we're apolitical. We stay out of these things. and it went down very badly, what he said, in China, as we know, because that very same weekend they took off the Arsenal game. They didn't even show it.
Yeah.
So that's probably hit the club hard in their pocket. So they probably didn't like that, even though, you can understand why, being a Muslim himself, he'd be speaking up about something like that, which is terrible what's been happening there. He also, famously didn't take a pay cut.
Yes.
One of very few players in that Arsenal squad that did not take a pay cut. And I think that was kind of the beginning of it. Not taking that pay cut really, to me, really annoyed the powers that be at Arsenal. And then, of course, recently there's been the whole Gunnosaurus thing, where he offered to pay Gunnosaurus his wages after that sort of embarrassing story came out about the guy who does the Gunnosaurus role. So I think all of these things put together have just been the death knell. They've just said to themselves, and I think this has come way above Mikel Arteta's head. And you can tell by the way he's done, even the statement at the start of it, he's praising Arteta. You can tell that it's come from the very top.
Absolutely. And actually, at the end of his second mini paragraph here, he says, I was no longer allowed to play football for Arsenal. That doesn't sound like a managerial decision. No one talks about managerial decisions and tactics in that way. To say no longer allowed, that sounds like an upstairs decision, which we've all speculated about. But I think the statement puts that to bed now, for sure.
Obvious. Let's do a couple of comments here. Patrick O'Halloran with a super chat. He says, very sad. Mesut may not go down as a club legend, but he was such a classy footballer and he played football the Arsenal way. And Ben Houghton says, I feel sad about the treatment of Ozil, but he's not the same player. I would prefer play Smith Rowe, even Saka there, as they're the future of the team. And I mean, what's your thoughts on it, James? What's your thoughts?
So, not too far from what you were saying in that I think it's a culmination of many things that have ultimately led the club to decide that he's just simply too expensive for what you're getting. And by the way, these aren't my opinions or how I would have dealt with it. I'm just saying what I think is going on at the club from everything I've read. I think that the speaking out on certain political issues is kind of one thing, but he kept playing. Arteta actually joined after that statement and he kept playing and he was playing very regularly. I then think the refusal to take a wage cut was a big sign of, maybe to some, it was a sign that he wasn't a part of the team like others were, maybe, whether he had great reason for doing it or not. I'm not sure it went down great. And then I actually think in terms of the performances you were getting from Mesut Ozil, if we're being honest, I don't think we've seen the best of Ozil since before he signed that contract extension. He had moments under Emery, he had moments under Arteta when he came back, but I don't think we've seen the Ozil we saw at the time where we were praying he would sign his new deal. And if it's all rumours, but if rumours are to be believed that there's a certain appearance fee and there's certain clauses in his contract that basically racks up the weekly wage, I think maybe they've looked at it and gone, he is simply way too expensive for what we're getting. And keeping him out is better for the club. Maybe. I'm putting that out there.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I feel that where it really went downhill was the pay cut thing.
Yeah.
That went down badly. He's the highest earner at the club. And I said it at the time. I said this ain't going to go down good. Because you're the highest earner at the club. And the highest earner says, no, not taking a pay cut.
By quite some distance, the highest.
Sorry?
By quite some distance, the highest there as well.
Quite some distance. And then if you remember rightly, after that, he when a load of people got made redundant, he then went on to say, see, this is why I didn't take it. Those things would have really upset the people upstairs. They'd be really angry about that. And I just feel that they've just said to Mikel Arteta, listen, Doesn't matter what he does, he ain't playing. We want him out. We want to force him out and get him out of this club this summer. He dug his heels in. Remember, he put out another statement. He said he's not leaving until the end of his contract.
Yeah.
And then from there, it's just been an absolute standoff, which is very, very embarrassing for the club. Let me do a couple of comments here. Mark says, like Robbie said, us fans do not know what goes on or what is said behind closed doors, so it's extremely hard for us to comment on the situation. But I think in this case, we can start with his statement and everything. We're starting to work a few little things out.
Yeah.
This guy said, this doesn't leave a good taste in my mouth about Arsenal. M23 Gaming says, Ozil doesn't deserve this treatment from Arsenal because when we originally signed him, he was electric. And even though he had a decline in form, Arsenal banning him is stupid. And then there's loads of these. Free Ozil, play Ozil, free Ozil. You know, so it's really, really, really dividing opinion.
The thing is, and let me absolutely make it clear that Mesut Ozil has every right to see out his contract and get what he's earned. He has every right to reject a pay cut. No one's saying that he's not within his right to do these things. However, when I hear free Ozil, and I saw some people tweeting that you know, footballers want to play and it's crushing when they can't. And you know, I am, without knowing anything from inside the club, I'm 100% confident that Ozil would have had very good lucrative offers to leave the club this summer. Now there's probably family and personal issues, you know, like having a baby, probably doesn't want to move his family, and he's probably very happy in London, and I absolutely get all that. And maybe he absolutely genuinely wanted to fight for his place. But I think he's known for a while that he wasn't going to be a part of the team, that he probably wasn't going to play for Arsenal ever again. And he's chosen to stay. That's the impression I get. I think there were offers. So I don't think free Ozil's completely fair, because I think the club actually would have happily have sanctioned his sale or some sort of agreement that would allow him to go, and he'd still be making, you know, a very healthy amount from it. So not passing an opinion on that. I just think this idea that he's sort of trapped to the club, I don't think is completely fair.
Okay, loads of comments coming in. Wayne Sage here with a super chat says, it's a shame the way the club has treated Ozil. It's clear this isn't a football decision. Think Ozil isn't good enough to play Dundalk is insane. 40-year-old 1 foot Ozil is still better than Joe Willock, he says, right? 2009 Hoopy says, only right. Treatment is correct. I like Ozil, but you don't bite the hand that feeds. Arsenal is bigger than Ozil. This guy here, Cashino Chris, says exactly. We had to stand together for humanity and not single out certain atrocities for financial gain or similarly media ridicule. He has been coming under a lot of stick as well, Mesut Ozil, because what I saw some people saying is he spoke up about the Uyghur Muslims in China, but he didn't, you know, he had the president of Turkey, Erdogan, who's also, how can I put it nicely, is also not a shrinking violet when it comes to human rights issues. And he was the best man at Ozil's wedding. And there's been some people who've been saying, well, you know, that's a bit hypocritical as well. I mean, I don't like to get into politics on this whole thing, but, you know, it has been one of the things that has been raised, I've seen quite a lot recently about Ozil.
Yeah, it's again, like you, I don't like to comment too much on the political side of things, but Ozil's actions throughout the last 5 years, whether it's footballing or off the pitch, for some reason it's always divisive. It always brings debate, and it always brings up whether he's good enough for Arsenal, whether we can win the title with him, whether he should be taking pictures with Erdogan, whether he should be commenting on certain things. It seems to always draw massive debate. And you even look at the way it ended for him in the Germany national team. You know, I think he won something like six German Player of the Year awards out of 7 or 5 out of 6. And yet still the ending was so ugly for him even there, actually to a point where I think they even recently came out and apologized for that. So
yeah, he got treated badly there as well, to be fair.
Yeah, so he's always been a a really divisive figure. And that part of me feels sorry for him on that. But then a little part of me also goes, what's going on that always it always results in this? But you know.
Yeah, Eric here says, embarrassing from Arsenal FC to treat Mesut Ozil like this. Won't be surprised if Mourinho goes in for him in January, since he wants to remain in London. Now that would be interesting. He ended up at Tottenham. I mean, bloody hell. Right. True Canadian Gooner says Ozil divides opinion. If he really wanted to play football, then he would have left already. He's within his rights, but it sounds like something personal between him and the club. I think we also got to remember that. All right, I know that one of those offers that came in for him was for him to play in Saudi Arabia, right? Maybe he don't want to play in Saudi Arabia. Doesn't matter about they're paying him. They're offering to pay him £200,000 a week. He doesn't want to play in Saudi Arabia. There's also like you sort of spoke a bit about it, and this has been something else that's been brought up, James, which is there's a rumor that maybe there might be something in his contract that says if you play a certain amount of games, or if you play, then that money goes to the 350, because we do know that a lot of these contracts have a lot of incentives in them. So the talk is, for instance, on Aubameyang's contract, that's around about 250 a week, but with all the incentives in it, playing incentives, things like that, that takes up to about 350. If Ozil maybe has a similar contract, maybe also look at it and say, well, if we play this guy, he will hit that threshold.
Yeah.
And then we got to give him the whole 350. Maybe, we're not going to know, because obviously a contract is confidential. You do start to think, is that something behind this as well?
Yeah, it's all speculative, but very possibly that, we was it even a couple of weeks ago, it was confirmed that he was paid something like an £8 million loyalty bonus. I believe that was the figure. And, that's quite startling, £8 million, and he's not figured since March. But that tells me that the contract might well be riddled with assist bonus, goal bonus, appearance bonus, minute bonus, all sorts, trophy bonus, or whatever it might be. So that would put the club in a very difficult position, and we don't know how much that is. We don't know how much that could potentially add up to. Maybe a couple million a year. So, yeah, we're absolutely right to speculate on that, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's one of the several things that's contributed to this situation.
All right, let's run through. There's so many comments coming in, loads. MT3 Gaming says, I don't understand why Arsenal are trying to distance themselves from a fantastic player in Ozil, which is mind-blowing. Hopefully this gets fixed as soon as possible and we can enjoy Ozil playing. You're not going to see Ozil playing at Arsenal.
I think it's done.
Barcard says, Robbie, don't underestimate the financial power of China. I'll go as far as the Premier League being involved when China threatening to pull Arsenal games off the air. And he says free Ozil, so he thinks maybe the Premier League might even have been involved in it. Jam says Ozil would be better at another club. He's finished now at Arsenal, sadly. Abnan says disgrace Arsenal. It's a disgrace. He needs to sue them.
He's still getting paid.
Collective discrimination. Arsenal should sue. Exactly like Ozil should sue Arsenal. He is still getting paid, remember.
He's not being denied the money. He's just not being selected for games.
Ahmed says, sounds like you agree with the injustice. What, an injustice on Ozil, or what injustice are you talking about? Of course we don't agree. You know who I feel sorry for in this? Mikel Arteta.
Yeah.
New manager is making his ways. Obviously not fully his decision. And he obviously is going to be the one who's going to have to fend all the questions. I reckon that somebody from the board should be coming out and saying something about this, because Arteta is the one that's going to get asked about this.
Of course he is, yeah.
He's going to get asked about this, and I kind of feel sorry for him, Mikel Arteta in this, because he's right in the middle.
Yeah.
Chris says What's up, Robbie? I do think that Ozil's been a great player for Arsenal, and I think it's time he moved on and start somewhere else fresh. James, you said it. He ain't really played well for a long time, did he?
Not at the level we know he can. Yeah. No, I was just saying not at the level we know he can. So, I mean, again, I feel like there probably were moves on the card for him, and if he chose not to go, that's completely fair enough. But he's still got something to offer at a very high level with European football, I imagine. Just maybe not at Arsenal, and well, certainly not at Arsenal now. It's a sad end, but there's no question the guy's still got talent.
Yeah. Niji says Stan Kroenke didn't put a penny in the club for years. No sacrifice from the owner. Why should Ozil sacrifice his pay? A man says one argument I read every now and then is that he doesn't track back. Going by this reason, Messi wouldn't be playing if he would have been in the squad, because Messi just strolls around off the ball. Well, he does a lot more when he has the ball. I think if there's one player that's earned the right to stroll around when he doesn't have the ball, that's Messi. I don't think that's a very good comparison when we're talking about the two things. So
yeah.
There's so many comments coming in, and it really is interesting because it really does divide opinion, this whole thing. Christopher Reed says, shame it had to end this way, but it's time to move on. At the end of the day, do the good games of Ozil outweigh the bad? Do they, James?
What a great question. That is such a good question. Do Ozil's good outweigh the bad? Are we talking now or over his career? Because
now we're talking about his career at Arsenal.
Have his good outweighed his bad? I think just about, because I think he did enough in against the big six at home, for example. He had some good performances. I remember Bayern Munich, I remember Manchester United, Chelsea. He did turn up. That was actually a myth, that he never turned up in big games. And actually he did more than people thought. Cup finals, semi-finals. So I'd say the good did over his career. But there were some horror shows in there as well. There were times we did look like we were playing with 10 men because Ozil never had another way of playing if it wasn't happening, which, by the way, Ozil's plan A was world class. But when it didn't work, yeah, we were left wanting sometimes. So I think his good did outweigh the bad. What about for you? Yeah.
50-50.
Yeah.
I'm going to come back to that. Ethan says, is Arteta the management's dog? If so, should we trust him, or should we consider this as a concern for the club's financial?
What, as in, is Arteta sort of like a puppet, you mean?
Like a puppet, I think he's trying to say, yeah.
No.
Harsh.
Not for me. Not for me. The way he spoke out after the Liverpool game where we won 2-1 back in, I think it was July, and we won, and he said, we need players. Well, I know we won, but that wasn't good enough. We need players. I think that was enough to buy me quite a few months of confidence that he's not going to just accept what he's given.
Amory says, if Ozil has always been lazy in training, then please explain his World Cup win with Germany and titles and cups with Real Madrid. Surely it's not because of football reasons.
100%.
It's not. I think there are some football reasons in there that he's a player on the decline. Let's be real now. But as somebody else said there, when you see some of the games where we're lacking in creativity and that, surely he could do a job off the bench. Nobody can tell me any different with that. Suraj says Ozil was no worse than any other player prior to lockdown. It's completely unfair how he's been treated. We need to stop judging players by wages that the club have put them on. Free Ozil. That's a good point about the wages. Judge a lot because he's on these big wages.
100%.
Club paid him the wages. He never put a gun to the club's head. This is what I want. He said, I need that, or I can move on. There's other clubs that want me, which is what every other player does.
Yeah, absolutely.
Arsenal Interactivo says, In Latin America is the same. Ozil fans disrespect Arteta. Hope to see you again, Robbie. I am GM Franco from the first channel of Arsenal in Spanish. Well done to you, GM Franco. Respect
Cool.
you, bro.
That's really cool.
Yeah, going back to that one, the 50-50 one, as I said, I think 50% of the times he was amazing. 50% of the times he was disappointing, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair. He never truly gave us, maybe the 15-16 season when he was one short of Henry's assist record. That was the only time I felt we got a whole season of Ozil being world class. But otherwise, it was patchy. That's kind of the reality of it, unfortunately.
Yeah. Ethan says, loyalty hard to come by. Didn't he run down his old contract to the 11th hour to get a bumper contract? Where was his loyalty back then? And more importantly, his loyalty to Wenger, who loved him.
That's not a bad point. People forget that when he signed that contract, he was able to negotiate with other clubs. So that's a really good point. And I'm not questioning his loyalty here. I'm just saying, worth mentioning. You're right, because there was a big saga with him and Sanchez, wasn't there?
Yeah, his loyalty was sweetened up by £350,000 a week. Steve says Ozil is an emotional player. He needs love and support. No one at the club has supported the gaffer. Very sad. Arsene Wenger said that, didn't he?
He did. Arsene Wenger did. He said he needs an arm around the shoulder. And I think Arteta is the kind of manager who has a bit of that, but I think he also wants you to pull his socks up and get on with it sometimes.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Four says, who would have thought that the club who tried so hard to sign you is now trying so hard to get rid of you? Sad ending.
Yeah.
It's
7 years on there.
Yeah. You know, 7 years at a football club is a long time.
It is a long time.
Yeah. King says, will Aubameyang will be treated in this same way? Also, if his contract is about ending, you never know. Listen, don't discount it. Already, I've even seen fans and people questioning Aubameyang. Oh, since he signed a new contract, blah. You know, it can turn quick. It can turn quick.
But also, we're only, sorry to interrupt there, but we're only really talking about this a lot because Ozil's still here. It's not the first player in the first club to be involved in a dispute about the way things went. And the recent example that springs to mind is Alexis Sanchez. The minute he was out, he talked about how he wanted to leave after one training session, that he wasn't happy and he wanted to rip up his contract. I mean, if he was still there, you'd probably have a similar thing going on. That's the reality. So, you know, it's only because he's still at the club and he's Mesut Ozil, and Arsenal have had this whole pay cut, redundancies, then signed Thomas Partey thing, that it's become such a massive talking point.
Keane says, hello, the treatment of Ozil, the treatment Arsenal is giving Ozil is not really good because he's done a lot for the club. And for me, as an Arsenal fan, I'm not happy with it. Scott Williams says, Ozil is class, but he can't play in the new system as a midfield. As the midfield has to work, and Ozil just can't do that up and down like the rest of the midfield. So it would be down the pecking order for me. One Miriam Khan says Arteta coming out and taking the blame is a little dishonest. Everyone clearly knows what is happening.
Yeah.
Alois says our team lacks creativity. Ozil is one of the most creative in the world. Absolute shambles to think he won't improve the team more than the other midfielders. He's not playing because he spoke out on China. And so he's making that pretty clear. That's what he feels the reason is.
Yeah.
That's why I feel some sort of statement needs to be, you know, because when people start feeling that, you know.
I agree. I also think silence suggests guilt a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm an Arsenal fan. I want Arsenal to be in the right in this situation. But the more Ozil gives his side and we hear nothing from the club, your mind does think, especially when I think a lot of people rightly agreed with Ozil speaking out on certain things, and people think he's obviously trying to do a good thing, especially with Gunnosaurus as well. And I would almost like to see the club, if they're in the right, obviously, to come out and say, look, this is what's happened and this is why we're doing it, and maybe win back a bit of confidence from fans again, because I think there are a few who are blaming the club for this.
Yeah, Ashwin says it's hard to say he could have left early. At the same time, the board could have got rid of him early. Either way, the board should have sorted it out early. Greg says, love the ruthlessness. I'm ready for the new era. So I must admit, I spoke to my mate Julian earlier. He had no sympathy whatsoever.
Wow.
He should have went ages ago. I mean, there are some fans like that.
Yeah.
That have no sympathy whatsoever. Paul says, much love from Romania, guys. As an ex-professional footballer, I'm sure most of us are frustrated because deep down, we all wanted him to succeed at the club. Mesut Ozil is bigger than Stan. Mesut Ozil is big, because you know what? You look at the amount of fans that are supporting him, even though he's not. I mean, usually, I don't think a player in his situation would get a lot of support. £350,000 a week, hasn't really performed for a long time. There'll be a lot of fans agreeing with this decision. But Mesut Ozil is so loved that he's still getting lots and lots of support.
Yeah, it is.
Osman says, what about the tweet Ozil sent? You make me laugh. Not such a joke anymore, right?
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, that wouldn't have made them too pleased when they saw that. Owen says it's pretty clear the Cronkies have business ventures in China and have told Arsenal to control your player. Their greed is shameful. Ozil clearly has said he won't keep quiet, which had led to his exile. It's a real shame. A lot of people are citing the China thing. I have to admit, I think it started. I think the China thing really upset them. But I think what really did them was the pay cut thing. That, to me, if you notice, from then on, gone.
Yeah.
Not a minute after that. So
No.
I think the Chinese, the China thing, the China statement annoyed them. But like you said, because that happened before the lockdown, didn't it?
Yeah, that happened. I believe it was in December. I actually think it happened before Arteta was appointed.
Yeah, and then he still played after that, didn't he?
And he still played. I think. Yeah.
Still played, didn't he, James?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, played a lot.
Yeah. Played up until March. But I think what really, really upset the club was him refusing to take that pay cut when literally every other player in the team did. And I think that what they just thought after that is, see you later. You ain't playing for this club again. Ishan said, this is no way to treat even one's enemy. The Real 575 says, Robbie, what Ozil did is not uncommon. NBA players have said things against the Chinese communist government, but were forced to apologize, and that fixed everything. But as I said, this is not just that. It's got a part to play in it, but for me, obviously we don't know. But I feel if you really track it, from the minute he went that pay cut thing, that was it. The writing was on the wall.
Yeah.
Anurag says Arteta in his press conference today said it's 100% football reasons to exclude. Only makes Arteta looking foolish because we all know it's true. Be brave and let the fans know the truth. That's what I'm saying. I feel sorry for Arteta. He's in the middle. How can he come out and say, well, actually, just to let the fans know, it had nothing to do with me. It was the owner's fault.
Yeah.
He'd be
not me.
He'd be following Ozil out of the club.
Yeah.
You know, come on.
No, absolutely. I think you're spot on. He can't come in and he's got to take it front on. That his job as manager is to face the press and answer questions, and he'll know that for the good of the club, he is. Well, the club, not the fans, but the club. It's for him to just say, "Yep, all me." Don't it's footballing reasons. Don't worry. But we know there's more to it.
Amal says, let's not forget the club leaked that Ozil refused the pay cut. They've had it in for him for a while now. It's a disgrace. And I don't know why you are both on the fence about it. Well, we're trying to get your opinion. We're asking everybody's opinion on it. And it's a very difficult thing, kind of not to be on the fence for, because we don't know exactly the reasons. None of us, whether you guys, me or James, none of us are there. We're all kind of trying to put things together to try and my opinion, my opinion. I don't know if it's James, my opinion, from the minute with the pay cut thing.
Mm-hmm.
I know for a fact, in speaking to some people at the club, it went down terribly. Terribly. They looked upon it that in a time of, need, their main guy, and he was the main guy, was the highest earner. Their main guy said no.
Yeah.
And let's be real, that could have led to other players, the whole of them saying, no, we're not going to do it. So that would have upset let's be real, that upset them.
Absolutely. And also, you're right to say that it's hard not to be on the fence about it, because we don't know. And actually, no one knows. Apart from the people directly involved in this, no one actually knows what's going on. It's very hard to comment because you don't want to endorse incorrect behavior on one side or the other by saying they're right. We don't know for sure. And if we ever know the truth, I'll happily have a good opinion about it. But I just feel there's too much we still don't know about this.
And don't get me wrong, I'm saddened by the whole situation.
Me too.
When I spoke today earlier on Sky, that's what I said. It's so sad. See it ending this way. This guy, Laomi says, remember being gassed 7 years ago. The whole thing is beyond Arteta. The game of being high up in management is dirty. What a sad ending. Free up the man. I remember 7 years ago. I remember I was outside the ground when fans poured onto the street. It was a beautiful feeling. To finally say we've got ourselves an unbelievable player. So it is horrible to see how it's ended up. The Bashish Roy says Robbie always mentions Ozil's wage, then tells me not to judge the player based on his wage. Why, Robbie? I mention his wage because everybody talks about his wage, and it's a very high wage. Me personally, if a player's performing, and I always say this is a natural thing, I'm sure, with all football fans. Players performing, wage don't get mentioned. Go and speak to a Liverpool fan. They can't even tell you the wages of their players. They don't care because they're winning everything. But if they weren't performing, they'll know the wage, right? Because they'll be like, ex-player Salah's on $250 a week and he couldn't hit a barn door. But when a player is performing, it's like nobody complained the other day about the wages that Aubameyang's just got. Remember rightly, you've got fans saying, give him whatever he wants. That's what they were saying. And no doubt, if we was to rewind back to when Ozil got that contract, we were all saying that then. Give him what he wants. But it turns round when the player's not performing. And one thing we've got to be real. One thing we've got to be real about here, right, is that he has not performed for quite a long time. Be real now. Be honest. Whether you love him or not, Mesut Ozil, it's been a long time since he put in a very, very top performance on a consistent basis. I do think, much as I love him as a player, he's a bit he's a player in decline. Quite naturally, he's getting older.
Yeah.
Cheyu says it's obvious the issues are related to China and the pay cut situation, even though Ozil was right for doing it. Even Aubameyang liked his Instagram post. I did see that as well. Aubameyang did like his post. He's had a lot of support from other players. He even said, you know what I mean? He's still supporting these players and players are still supporting him. So,
and congrats to Arteta if he's managed to keep the players focused on the footballing side of things, whether they agree with what's going on off the pitch or not. Because I think we see a great we see a great unity between players, and you can kind of see it in whatever it might be, training videos, social media posts, whatever. And this has been going on from before we won the FA Cup. So Arteta's done well to keep everyone on board and keep them focused on what's going on, despite how they might feel about. Mesut Ozil's definitely got friends at the club for sure who won't be happy with this either. But they're there to worry about the footballing stuff, I imagine.
Yeah, Suresh says United handling Pogba well after all his tantrums. Our club management is not great. Deepak here, I was trying to find his super chat. He said, finally the time has come that Arsenal keeps aside its... Oh, lost it. Sorry, Deepak. I'll try and get that back. Arthur is saying Arteta is a puppet. Anthony says, bottom line is he hasn't been worthy of the shirt for a very long time. One good game in 10 or 15 is not good enough. I remember some foolish fans comparing him to Bergkamp.
Pretty strong, that.
You ever compare him to Bergkamp?
No. I mean,
One man says the Arsenal board can't be upset about a player not taking a pay cut when Kroenke takes advisory fees, runs a club to get a dividend, bought a ranch for $750 million and built a $5 billion NFL stadium in Los Angeles. Some great points.
Yeah.
Jonathan says, Robbie, stop having sentiment for Ozil. Arsenal have to move on from him as a club and look towards the future. This is why we aren't a big club anymore.
You've been accused of being too much on both sides now.
I know. I get it all the time.
Being balanced, I think.
I'm trying to be balanced in the debate, man. And it's starting to remind me of the old Arsene Wenger days, where I go to a ground, I get one set of people coming up to me, having a go at me for letting people have a go at Wenger. Then I get another set of fans coming and having a go at me for not having a go at Wenger more, and I'll be like, oh,
yeah.
Oh.
We're just presenting facts. We're just telling you,
I'm trying. Eric says, do you think the club would have handled this situation differently if the games were being played with fans in the stadium? Ooh. What do you reckon to that one?
Maybe. Maybe because there's no question, and I don't care when anyone says Arsenal spent 45 million on Partey, and there's no question that not having fans in the stadium because of the pandemic has had a financial impact. Whether it's had a big one, a small one, whatever, it's had a financial impact. I think maybe Arsenal could have coped with the wages and everything and whatever fees came with Ozil if we were filling the stadium all the time. Maybe that's a potentially fair point.
No, you know what, James? I think that guy he's approaching it differently. I think what he's trying to say is, if fans were in the stadium, would the club be able to treat Ozil in this way, where they just get rid of him unceremoniously? Would they have been able to do that if fans had been coming to the stadium and fans would be able to voice their disapproval vocally? So, for instance, every time there's a bad performance, for instance, there'd be chants of "We got Ozil," you know what I mean, and stuff like that.
Yeah,
that's a good point. It does let the club off the hook, doesn't it, without the fans being there?
That's a much better point than what I thought it was. So yeah, that's a really good point. Maybe.
In fact, says finally the time has come for Arsenal fans to keep aside its class and ruthlessly do anything to win trophies. Free Ozil. Imran says Ozil has many other charity commitments, so why should he take a pay cut and disappoint them? The owner still made those redundancies. So again, and that's exactly what Ozil was saying. The 12th man, 86, says Ozil hasn't won us games, but at the same time, he hasn't lost us games, like Xhaka, Luiz, and Bellerin, who still play. Ozil is still better than our current midfielders. And, again, with the lack of creativity that we've seen recently, if fans would have been in the stadium, they would have been making that point. That's a great point by that guy. That really is a great one.
Yeah, it is.
Youssef Yusuf says, as much as I love Mesut Ozil, we are in dire need of a creative midfield to create chances for the three up top. For me, Ceballos is an average player, and we need someone to come in and challenge for that position. Jimmy says he just wanted a good farewell. We can't even give him one. Again, he won't get a good farewell because there's not going to be no fans in the stadium. And let's face it, I can't see Stan Kroenke welcoming him back to the club and giving him a box or something.
Do you remember the last home game of Ramsey's and Welbeck's season, and they were presented in front of the crowd?
Yeah.
Do you think there's any chance of that for Ozil? No. Do you think it's gone?
No.
It's not good.
Paul says, Robbie, the guy came to us as one of the best in his position. Surely Stan forced Arteta and Edu to freeze him out. Definitely. He didn't perform as wish because we didn't play Aubameyang, Partey, Saka 3 years ago. Ishan says, what if we reach the same situation 3 years down the line with Aubameyang? 3 years back, we weren't complaining about Ozil's wages either. That was a point I made earlier. Mai says it's sad to see Ozil would never step on the Emirates again.
Yeah.
We never see him step in the Emirates again. That's very true. Adnan says he's always made the scapegoat, even when there were more worse players than him. Abba had a spell which even Ozil had. Is that what you're saying? If Abba had a spell which Ozil had, but if Abba plays bad, he's not made the scapegoat. And he says stand against politics in foot. So
I mean, Aubameyang, okay. Aubameyang scores goals, which we love, and he's scored goals at Wembley and big goals against Liverpool, City, Chelsea. But he's also won a lot of love from the fans for how much he's tracking back now and working hard, and how he interacts with fans, via social media, or how he interacts with club legends. So he's earned a lot of respect and love in many other ways than just football. So if he delivers a bad performance, I think he's rightly let off the hook more easily.
And says, don't forget the 3 other players who disagreed with the pay cut, but only Ozil's name came out. His time was up a long time ago, but it's a disgrace to see Arsenal treating someone like this. I don't like to see it. I don't like to see this public humiliation of Mesut Ozil. That's what it's been, really.
Yeah.
And also, I don't like to see this public scrap.
Yeah.
Between the club and a player. It's not nice to see.
Yeah, I've got to say, this is one of those situations that I don't think has been fairly covered by the media in some ways. I don't think. I remember, I'm not going to name the journalist, but there was one journalist who said that 3 players refused the cut, and he left it at that. And he refused to name who they were because he felt that was personal and not important to mention. And then 10, 20 minutes later, another journalist there getting it straight out there to the world. Now, for me, there's a real difference there. One understands that there's, certain things are private and aren't important. The point is that not everyone took the pay cut. And then the other thing is that when Arsenal announced these redundancies, there was a lot of bad press around that. And obviously that earned Ozil a lot of support as well. And I'm not sure that's 100% fair on the club either. I've read somewhere that a lot of the stuff was pre-planned, and that the pandemic sped things up, for example, and that there were other reasons for certain decisions being made. So I think the way both the club and the player have been covered and reported on in this situation hasn't been completely fair for either, totally. And the whole thing it's just nasty now, if I'm honest.
Yeah, shouldn't somebody like Vinay be coming out and sort of talking about this situation?
Clearing it up.
Stephen Harrison says, what's happened to the club? The Arsenal way. Let us not forget how the board treated Arsene Wenger after all he did. So it's no surprise to treat Ozil in this way. Matthew Hawkins says 2015-16 was Ozil at his peak. Nothing but disappointment since. He's gone next year anyway. Let's just move on and let Arteta do his thing.
Can I go back to that second one, that first one you read for a second about Wenger and Ozil? And two people who've been involved in our football club that I adore. I love Wenger. I wanted him. I was Wenger until very late on. And Ozil, who I always defended, even when he dropped clanger after clanger at the Etihad or whatever. I love the guy. But to say they were treated terribly by the club, forget fans or whatever the media are saying, but by the club, I mean, Wenger was given a long time to make it right when things weren't going well. And he had a lot of support from the club at times. And Mesut Ozil is still getting paid his wage. He's still allowed to train. You know, this idea that they're being treated horrendously, I'm not quite subscribing to at the moment, if I'm honest. I don't know how you feel about that.
No, you are right. He's still getting paid.
Yeah.
In effect, he's not been sacked. They've just said to him, and you could look on it. Listen, we already know there's other things, right? And I think Ozil made it clear. But he hasn't performed for a long time. And maybe the manager might be looking at it and saying, let me just try and get some of these younger players. And, you know, Smith Rowe, why should I omit him from the squad?
Mm-hmm.
You know, why should I omit some of these players that are like Willock from the squad?
Yeah.
When you're leaving at the end of the season anyway.
Yeah.
You could possibly leave in January. You know, although I do think it's deeper than that. SB says apparently the other two players were Martinelli and Socrates. That is pure speculation. We don't know who the other two players were. I've heard different names. But until we know who they are. The Banshu says, looking at our recent games with City, I only saw Saka as an outlet for our creativity. Yeah. We could at least use him till the end of the season to give us that spark of creativity, which we lack in certain games. I would have loved to have seen him even on the bench. I wanted to see, like, so at the start of the season, I was like, I know he's not going to be a main guy in the team.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, at least we're going to get to see Ozil in the Carabao Cup.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I said, if he gets left out of that, and the minute he got left out of that, I was like, that's it, it's over, man.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't even, you know.
Yeah.
Paul Hammer says, have Arsenal ruined Ozil's reputation, or is this his own doing? Only time will tell. We really don't know.
Yeah, we can't.
Says, Petr Cech received a guard of honour at Emirates, and Ozil definitely more. 7 years at the club. Would like to see him once more at the Emirates and give him a proper farewell. Petr Cech is even in the Chelsea squad. Mesut Ozil at the moment can't get in our squad, and yesterday Chelsea announced Petr Cech's in their squad.
Yeah, I know. I saw Gunner blog tweet. It's such a shame we didn't register Mikel. Can you imagine if Arteta came back as our number 10? That would have been good. That was weird, that Petr Cech yesterday.
That was weird, yeah. But, you know, it's just, you know. DT, it's not the real DT, but he says, Ozil deserves humiliation. He constantly used the fan base to pressurize managers into him playing. Then when it doesn't work, it causes a divide between his fellow players, managers, and the board. Somebody made the point when we was doing the video yesterday, James. He made the point and said, remember how Mesut Ozil left the field when he got beaten by Chelsea in the Europa League.
Yeah. He had a little bit of and he had a good relationship with fans, but he did have a little bit of a kind of history of that. I remember him trying to walk off after losing 6-3 at the Etihad, and Mertesacker had to grab him and tell him to go thank the fans. Yeah.
I remember, listen, obviously I was in Baku.
Yeah.
And I remember fans were very, very angry with his response to being substituted in that game. And there was fans saying to me, this guy's supposed to be the leader in the team. He's supposed to be one of them. And look at him. Look at his body language. Look at his attitude.
Yeah.
Get him out. That's what a lot of them were saying.
Yeah, that was the last straw for a lot of people.
Yeah. Sam says, feel bad for Ozil. He wasn't perfect, but he tried. Did he try enough in enough games? You know?
I don't think he was a player who ever tried to really change himself and adapt for the league. Now, lots of people rightly tell me Ozil shouldn't need to change, and that's completely fair enough. But when I looked at the way, David Silva, a very similar player, adapted to playing maybe a bit deeper in a midfield three, Cazorla did the same, I never felt Ozil really adapted. I'm not saying he had to. I'm not saying I expected him to. But it's definitely true that others in his position or of his ilk found another way to play in this league when it got tough, and he never really did.
Joseph says, "Hey James, Arsenal are still paying Ozil because of a contract. They have no choice." Well, yeah, we know that.
Yeah, of course, but it's not bad, is it? It's not bad.
Michael says, "Why so sad? You can keep Ozil posters in your bedroom." So he's obviously, got no. Not got no sympathy. Alejandro says, Robbie, this sends out a negative message to potential future Arsenal players. That's a good point.
That is a good point.
Yeah, Vince says, laugh out loud, Ozil, stop trying. He said, the worst body language I've ever seen in a player.
Something that was also used against him often. A lot of pundits or media would say he doesn't look like he fancied it. And I always... Do you know what? I always thought this guy's a World Cup winner, La Liga winner, FA Cup winner, German Player of the Year. I'm really not worried about his body language. I'm worried about what he delivers. It was definitely something that was used against him a lot. And in that situation, I back him wholeheartedly. I feel he was... And I'm not talking about when he went off the pitch at Baku. I'm talking on the pitch. People thought he just didn't look up for it, but I'm not sure. I've always thought that was a bit of a lazy criticism.
Yeah, Mr. Boodoo says, my decision on Mesut Ozil, not the board or politics, said Arteta in his latest interview.
Yeah, he's going to say that.
As I said, he's... what is he going to say?
Yeah. It's true.
Met says, David Silva never adapted. He plays at City. Ozil plays at Arsenal. End of discussion. He did adapt. And we've seen a lot of players. We've even seen strikers have to adapt their game. At the moment, Harry Kane's even having to play deeper in the system. You know what I mean? It happens.
Look at Kevin De Bruyne, who's a good example of a player who arrived as a number 10, played on the right a little bit. And Guardiola knew that there needed to be dynamism in midfield, and De Bruyne delivered that, and adapted.
Quick clip says, as a United fan, he says, he's so sad to see what's happened. I hope he gets to play one more time. I don't think we're going to see him one more time. Sam says, Troops praises James Rodriguez despite him being a BTEC Ozil at best. Ozil never had the physicality capacity to press and tackle more. He needed support. So exactly what James is saying, though, in having to adapt your game, or it's kind of adapt or die, isn't it?
It's a suggestion. James is playing wide right for Everton now. So he came through as a 10, one of the most sought-after 10s in the world, played for Real Madrid, played for Bayern Munich. He's playing on the right because Ancelotti knows he needs Doucouré, Allen, and whoever it is with them, Gomez or Davis, to be a bit more dynamic. So he's adapted.
He was tried out wide as well. It didn't work, did it?
No, not really. No, he was tried.
Yeah, it didn't work.
Absolutely. No, it didn't, to be honest.
Wayne says Arsenal wasted Ozil's prime years with no defensive midfielder and Giroud as a striker. You buy a Ferrari and you put Honda... You put Honda rims on it. Oh my God!
I think there's an element of truth in that. By the way, I think
there is.
Yeah, I think it's true that when he was at his best, and where I feel most sorry for him, is that he was judged when I felt we didn't build a team that could really get the best out of him. If I'm honest,
we got the best out of him. It was no. What was I going to say? The word. There's no coincidence that he was brilliant when he had Alexis there.
Alexis Cazorla, yeah.
Yeah. Vishal says, clearly not footballing reasons. This is beyond Arteta. He has to echo what the board tell him, whether he likes it or not. He has to stay diplomatic. sad to see Ozil being treated in this way. And I think the overriding thing that we're seeing here is that people are saying that time and time again. Sad to see him being treated in this way. Sad to see how it's going. It's ending. It is sad, isn't it, James?
Yeah, it is. It is sad. And I know, obviously, some people mentioned sitting on the fence about this. And the only thing I sit on the fence on is the reasons why he's being left out, simply because we can't know for sure. But what I don't sit on the fence about is that he was a world-class player, that he was superb for us at times, that he was unfairly criticised, that he was unfairly dealt with by the German national team when he was dropped out, and that he was brilliant, and that we failed him in some ways by not giving him a proper midfield behind him, a proper striker, and just getting the best out of him in his best years. I don't sit on the fence about that. Love Ozil as a footballer. I was one of the few who thought he was better than Sanchez at times, but it is a really, really sad end, unfortunately.
Yeah, we're coming to an end now. We've just gone over an hour here, but it's been a great discussion. Ben White, he says, I'm glad this is all over. A common theme of Ozil's Arsenal career was subpar performances when we needed him most, and being repeatedly dropped by Wenger, Emery, Ljungberg, and now Arteta. Again, good points made there. Good points made by all of you today. Thank you very much for all of your comments today. It's been absolutely brilliant. Thank you, James.
Yeah, thanks, Robbie.
And it's been really, whatever you think of Mesut Ozil, I have to say it's sad. It's sad how it's ending up. That a guy, he has been here for 7 years. Whether he divides opinion, we know that. But I for one, I feel sad how this is ending. Obviously, I don't think he was at the level to play week in, week out for Arsenal. But it's his last season. I would have liked to have seen him playing the Carabao Cup. I would have liked to have seen him figure in the Europa League. I would have liked to have seen him every now and again come off the bench. Or if that weren't going to happen, I would have liked to have seen him leave already. And I just feel that this situation now, we can't have him lingering around, not even knowing that he's not even going to play. Yeah. The best thing for the club to do is to sit down with Mesut Ozil, come to some sort of agreement with him, pay him off so he can go and continue playing his football elsewhere, and then Arsenal just make a complete break and move on, and we can just hopefully remember the great years of Mesut Ozil. But unfortunately, it's very messy at the moment. It's very horrible, and nobody comes out of this good. So let's hope Arsenal can do something about it in that way. Thank you, James. Yeah, you'll be back.
Thanks,
You'll be back tomorrow.
Absolutely.
You'll be doing the build up to the big Europa League game against Rapid Vienna. And of course, we're going to be all over it tomorrow. We've got lots of coverage on it tomorrow. All right. So thanks for watching. Sorry, James?
No, I was going to say, it's going to be good. No, plenty of coverage. And looking forward to that. It'll be good to kick off that campaign as well. Another competition to win.
Right there. Thank you very much.